I'm now truly excited to introduce our first panel of the evening to explore the future of food and agriculture systems. So we have Marion, the Paulette Goddard Professor of Nutrition, Food Studies, and Public Health, Emerita at New York University. We have Manoj Kumar, the CEO of the Naandi Foundation. And Ndidi, who is the president and CEO of the One Campaign. Angelo Garcia is the chair of the Viola Davis and Julius Tennon Foundation. And moderating this discussion, we have the wonderful Gustavo Arellano, who is a journalist for the LA Times. And I'll give it over to Gustavo now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming to this amazing museum. I've never been here before, especially for a film like this. Is absolutely awesome. It's interesting to do this panel because these are all, you're going to see them and their amazing work in this documentary. So I don't want to play them up too much because I want to see them being revealed on the screen. So, but we're still going to have a nice conversation. And the first question for all of you, you are all so busy in all your relative fields, coming from all over the world, coming from all over the United States. What was it about this project that got you interested in saying, I'm going to spend some time with this, I'm going to let them into my life, and I'm going to, share into this? So Marion, if we could start with you.
I write books about food politics. And this is about food politics writ large.
I work with 1 million smallholder farmers in India. And if they are not there, we have no food tomorrow.
Simple as that.
I'm a serial social entrepreneur working the food and agricultural landscape across Africa. And through my role at the One Campaign, also fight for equity and justice. And food is a key driver, not just for jobs, but inclusive growth and health. And so without food, there's no life.
Angelo.
Viola told me to come here.
Straight up, simple as that. What strikes me especially about a project like this, I mean, we are told now that people do not want to see movies, that people just want to be done on the flash, just an Instagram reel, something short. What do each of you think is the power of a documentary like this that weaves in not just your story, the stories of the three of you, but other visionaries and other just pioneers in all of this? Why should there be projects like this that weave in your stories?
Because it's a magnificent film. Wait until you see the photography in it. It's astonishing. And people are doing such exciting things. It's totally inspirational.
I'll say that even the coffee that I sell of the smallholder farmers, we ensure that right up to the packaging and the positioning is nothing less than world class. Same way, when we tell their story, it should be world class. It should be in Hollywood, and it should have the best voice, and it should have the best director and the best script, and all of that has gone into it with a lot of research. That's the only way to tell stories about voices we don't get to hear, of invisible people. So this is the place.
That's great.
Well, there's a deficit of hope and trust in the world. And watching these stories and the vision for the future, where all of us are included, where there's growth, where there's justice, and where the most vulnerable human voices are elevated to global stages, that matters. And I applaud the Rockefeller Foundation for envisaging this, and Roy in particular and his team. But I also think many of us, it invites us to come along on this journey and to build that future.
So it's interesting because we know Viola in a completely different platform. And having grown up with her and knowing her and Julius and where their heads and hearts are, knowing that they're involved in this project, helps us to really see the scope and the breadth of their reach. And so it really resonates with us back home in Little Rhode Island.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that, Angelo, because all of you come at this. The intersection is food justice, food, everything, but you all come from vastly different fields. So with Angelo, where do you see your role as the head of a nonprofit that really focuses on Rhode Island, tiny little Rhode Island, all the way out there? What do you think the work that you folks are doing can show the rest of us about how to create this more equitable food justice world?
You know, I think that for us, so much of it is about
And if you could speak right
speak a little. I'm
Yes.
trying not to use my teacher voice. I
You
run a
have to
charter
use the
school
teacher
during the
voice.
day, so you know, I definitely can see a lot of what is happening in our small little state across this world. And Viola and Julius put their money where their mouth is, and they are huge, huge advocates of food access and food equity. I got a call late at night when the whole SNAP thing went down in the States, and Viola was like, "We have to pivot. We have to look at what it is that we're doing to make sure that something that is so simple and that is so taken for granted is made available to people who really struggle to have access to food in our square mile back at home." You
Yeah,
know, it's just
the problems that this country is facing with cuts to SNAP benefits and just, inverted food pyramids and all of that, you have to deal with that in the most micro of scales, even though this is a film about the macro problems.
Sure, definitely, and it resonates, and it's very real. And again, knowing Viola's walk of life as I walked it with her back when we were younger, and I remember some of the things that we experienced. I said to someone earlier, we're a long way from splitting a medium pizza at Village Pizza for $5. But I can tell you that there is nothing more empowering than when I hear from them, we have to do something. We can't just sit on our hands. And it's not just about writing a check or a photo op. It's about really, really putting your energy into what's needed. And we're so grateful for that.
Yeah. And Ndidi, you called yourself or described yourself as a serial entrepreneur. Where do you think that spirit not just motivates what you're doing, but the people that you're working with in Africa? And how does that then tie in to the bigger issues that this film documents?
Well, social innovators and entrepreneurs are problem solvers. And right now, the food ecosystem, not only is it a big contributor to climate change, it's also one of the biggest possible solutions. And so I think when we consider the need for equitable, affordable, accessible, nutritious food for all, social innovators need to be at the heart of that. We have the solutions to ensure that everyone can afford a nutritious meal, but we're not doing enough. So it takes advocates, it takes political will, it takes funding, but it also takes everybody playing a critical role across the value chain to ensure that we solve this problem within our lifetime.
And how do those innovators motivate, especially the people who think, we talked about hope, you talked about hope actually. How do you get those innovators to bring out the hope in folks who might think like, I just can't do anything, or just the times are just too dark for anything to happen?
Well, a big part of it is storytelling, revealing what is possible, what's already been done, maybe at a smaller scale, and then galvanizing others to get behind it. And that's what this movie is about, or this documentary. There are people all over the world, on the continent, in Africa, but across other continents, who are doing amazing things, but we don't know them, and we're not supporting them. In fact, they face many roadblocks. And at this time, we need a lot of support to galvanize the change that we deserve, and to ensure that those voices are elevated and that their names are spoken in rooms where they don't sit.
Absolutely. Manoj, you work with farmers, micro farmers, coffee farmers out in India. Where do you think the micro farmer, what's their role in the bigger scope of food justice?
So we should look at one data point, I would say. Firstly, 85% of farmers in the world are smallholders. And 85% of malnourished children in the world, their parents are smallholders. It's an irony that the people who put food on our table can't feed their children. And if this continues, there'll be no food for us. And if there is anyone most affected by climate issues, they are women, children, and smallholder farmers. So the role that they will play in ensuring that they have sustained profits without damaging the planet and give us good food is the only thing that we should be working for. It's almost like that. And farmer, the word farmer, when we hear, we forget that it's mostly a woman. You know, it's just the stereotype image of a man, but almost All the farming and food production in the world is done by unpaid women in their own farms. So there is nothing more that you can think of as a vulnerable group that is here who can actually save the planet and us.
What would you say, especially now that you are interacting with people across the globe, what would you say is the unique insight that the Indian farmer has that other farmers around the world can learn from?
I will say that the most unique thing is they have been preserving the idea of food production to be not a monocrop idea. Like their culture, like their identity, the food almost every smallholder does is to have multiple crops, like a portfolio we have for wealth, they have for the farms. And they're fighting the mega trends of making it monocrops. They're trying to have multiple crops which ensure that there is the biology, the life sciences, the microbes that allow to replenish the system and make the food system sustainable. That's what they have been protecting and showing and thriving that it's possible to do it that way. So the million farmers that we work with collectively, they all make sustained profits by doing this in a diverse way. So it's possible that we can have a food system which is not monocrop, which is not using chemicals and pesticides. And when they get support from foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation, and movies can come out of this and go across the world. And if we can get consumers to back these farmers, I think we can change the world. So that's the message. Let's, like culture, like language, let's have every farm to be diverse.
Marion, you're a pioneer in food studies. What do you see the role of food studies, of the young academics who are going through, the college students who are seeing, hey, food studies, that's an interesting profession. How do you see food studies helping all the people that we're talking about and all the people documented in the film?
Food studies does the research. So it provides the underpinning of science, if you like, or experience with other people. And you're all people who I would study, or food studies scholars would study. And it provides a basis for changing policy. And that's what we need.
Why do you think food studies has exploded in popularity the way it has ever since it started roughly 30 years ago?
It's the most amazing thing to have watched, because we had the first food studies program at NYU, and it was a fluke, absolutely. And we never thought we were starting a movement. But when we started food studies, everybody said, why would anybody want to study about food? I think people have figured that out.
And they're figuring it out more and more. We're almost out of time with your panel, so the last question I'll ask all of you. You've all seen the movie. 3 of you star in this film. What do you think people should be watching for in this documentary?
I think you watch for where the inspiration is, because there's plenty of it.
Manoj.
I'll say that this movie is a wake-up call for all of us to know food doesn't come from an app, it comes from farmers.
That's funny.
I would say your call to action should be, what can I do after watching this film? What can I personally do in my home, in my kitchen? What can I do in my company? And what can I do to shape policy to ensure that these are not just one-off stories, but that these can be scaled? Because ultimately, future generations will hold us accountable for the choices we make today with our food system. How we ensure equity, how we ensure that food becomes medicine for all, not just the rich, and how we ensure that we improve the affordability and accessibility of food. So please watch with that eye. You have a role to play in this movement.
So I'm not in this movie.
You are not, but you.
So I'm assuming there will be a sequel, which I will be in.
With a large pizza, right?
Definitely. We're looking to be inspired.
But you saw the film, so what would you ask them to really look out for?
It's echoing what everyone has said about looking at real stories and how we can use those to be inspired to make change.
Marion, Manoj, and Ndidi, Angelo, thank you so much.